China's new energy breakthrough is shocking everyone. What if I told you that right now, as you watch this video, a country is quietly rewriting the rules of energy forever? Not in some distant future, not in a lab hidden from the public, but right now in real time at a scale so massive that even the scientists behind it are struggling to keep up with what they have built. China just did something the rest of the world thought would take another 20 years. And the ripple effects of what they have accomplished are going to touch every single country on this planet, every single industry, and yes, every single one of you watching this video. This is not a story about politics. This is not a story about trade wars or rivalry. This is a story about energy, the most fundamental resource that drives human civilization. And China just cracked open a new chapter that nobody was fully prepared for. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what happened, why it matters more than anything else in the news right now, and what it means for your future. The energy race nobody was talking about. For decades, the global energy conversation has been stuck in the same loop. Oil prices go up, oil prices go down. Renewable energy sounds promising, but too expensive. Nuclear power is clean, but politically toxic. Natural gas is a bridge fuel that somehow never leads anywhere. While the rest of the world was going in circles, China was doing something different. China was executing quietly, methodically, and at a scale that makes every other nation's energy ambitions look like a science fair project. In the last 10 years alone, China installed more solar panels than the rest of the world combined. Let that sink in for a second. The entire rest of the planet, every country, every continent, all their solar installations added together, and China outpaced all of them by itself. And that was just the beginning. What has happened recently goes far beyond solar panels. China has now crossed multiple thresholds simultaneously in energy technology, and the convergence of these breakthroughs at the same moment in history is what is sending shockwaves through the global energy establishment. Let us break down exactly what China has done, starting with the technology that is blowing everyone's minds right now. The battery revolution that changes everything. Here is a question for you. What is the single biggest obstacle standing between the world and a clean energy future? Most people say cost, some say politics, but engineers and scientists will tell you the real answer is storage. You can build all the solar panels and wind turbines you want, but when the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing, you need somewhere to put that energy. You need batteries, and not just any batteries. You need batteries that are cheap, safe, long-lasting, and powerful enough to keep cities running through the night. For years, lithium-ion batteries dominated this space. Your phone uses them, your laptop uses them, the Tesla in your neighbor's driveway uses them. Lithium-ion was the gold standard, but lithium-ion has a ceiling, and we were getting dangerously close to it. Then China's battery engineers did something remarkable. They scaled up sodium-ion battery technology and brought it to commercial viability in a way nobody else had managed to do. Sodium-ion batteries use sodium instead of lithium, and sodium is one of the most abundant elements on Earth. You literally find it in table salt. The cost implications of this are staggering. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, is a Chinese company. And CATL has now deployed sodium-ion batteries in electric vehicles and grid-scale storage systems at full commercial scale. This is not a prototype. This is not a pilot program. This is mass production. But here is where it gets even more interesting. China did not stop at sodium ion. They simultaneously pushed solid-state battery technology further than any other nation. Solid-state batteries eliminate the liquid electrolyte that makes traditional batteries dangerous. Solid-state batteries are safer, they charge faster, they last longer, and they store more energy in a smaller space. Multiple Chinese manufacturers announced solid-state battery production timelines years ahead of what Western companies had projected. The gap in battery technology between China and the rest of the world has become difficult to overstate. And why does this matter so much? Because cheap, reliable battery storage is the key that unlocks everything else. It makes solar and wind power dependable around the clock. It makes electric vehicles cheaper than gasoline cars. It allows countries to build energy grids that do not need fossil fuels as a backup. The battery breakthrough is not just one story. It is the story that makes every other clean energy story possible. Solar power enters a new era. Now, let us talk about what is happening on the solar side, because the numbers coming out of China right now are genuinely hard to believe. China is currently installing approximately 1 gigawatt of new solar capacity every single day, 1 gigawatt per day. To put that in context, 1 gigawatt is enough electricity to power roughly 750,000 average American homes. China is adding that capacity every 24 hours. But capacity numbers alone do not tell the full story. The real breakthrough is in efficiency and cost. Chinese solar manufacturers have developed next-generation perovskite solar cells, achieving efficiency rates considered theoretical just 5 years ago. While traditional silicon solar panels convert roughly 20 to 22% of sunlight into electricity, new perovskite and tandem cell technologies coming out of Chinese research institutions are pushing past 30% efficiency in production-ready formats. More sunlight converted to electricity means fewer panels needed to generate the same power. Fewer panels means lower installation costs. Lower costs mean more people can afford it. This is a virtuous cycle that feeds on itself, and China is at the center of that cycle, spinning faster than anyone else. The price of solar panels has already dropped by more than 95% since 2010, and that trend has not stopped. Analysts who follow this space closely project that the cost of solar energy will continue to fall, with Chinese manufacturing and innovation as the primary driver. This is not a temporary advantage. The infrastructure, supply chains, trained workforce, and intellectual property China has built in solar energy represents decades of compounding investment that cannot be replicated overnight. The nuclear gamble that actually worked. Now here is where this story takes a turn that genuinely surprised even the most knowledgeable energy analysts in the world. While China was building its solar empire and revolutionizing batteries, it was also running an experiment that most countries had abandoned entirely. China was betting on a new kind of nuclear power. Nuclear power has had a complicated reputation for decades. The disasters at 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima embedded a deep fear in the public consciousness. Many countries responded by phasing out nuclear power altogether. Germany famously shut down its entire nuclear fleet. The conventional wisdom became that nuclear was too dangerous, too expensive, and too slow to build. China looked at that conventional wisdom and made a different calculation. China decided the real problem was not nuclear power itself. The real problem was old nuclear power. And China set out to build something entirely new. The result is the thorium molten salt reactor. China completed and began operating the world's first experimental thorium molten salt reactor in the Gobi Desert. This is historic. No other country has done this. Thorium is more abundant than uranium, harder to weaponize, and thorium reactors produce far less long-lived radioactive waste. The physics of how thorium reactors work also makes a catastrophic meltdown essentially impossible. China has announced plans to build full-scale thorium reactors within the next decade. Simultaneously, China is building more conventional nuclear reactors than any other country in the world. As of this year, China has more reactors under construction. While other nations retreated from nuclear, China advanced. But even that is not the most extraordinary part, because China is also pushing the boundaries of nuclear fusion. China's East Reactor has set multiple world records for plasma confinement. Chinese fusion scientists achieved plasma temperatures exceeding 100 million degrees Celsius, hotter than the core of the sun, and maintained that plasma for record durations. These are quantum leaps, not incremental steps. No country has achieved commercial fusion yet, but the rate of progress coming out of Chinese fusion institutions is something that the global scientific community is watching with genuine awe. Pause here for a moment before I continue. I want to ask you something directly. You are watching this because you care about understanding the world, about seeing past the surface level headlines and grasping what is actually happening. If this kind of deep, honest analysis is valuable to you, please take 2 seconds right now to hit that subscribe button and smash the like on this video. It costs you nothing, but it tells the algorithm that this content matters and helps this channel keep producing exactly the kind of research-backed analysis that you just got through the first half of this video. And trust me, the second half is where it gets really interesting. Subscribe if you have not already, and now let us keep going. The grid revolution and what it means for the world. Everything we have talked about so far feeds into what is arguably the most consequential engineering project happening on Earth right now. China is rebuilding its entire national electricity grid from the ground up to run on clean energy. This is not a plan on paper. This is actively happening. China is deploying ultra-high voltage transmission lines that carry electricity across thousands of kilometers with minimal losses. These lines connect massive renewable energy installations in the deserts and mountains of western China to the densely populated eastern cities where hundreds of millions of people live. The engineering feat involved is comparable to the construction of the Great Wall or the building of the American Interstate Highway System. It is a generational infrastructure project that will define how China generates and distributes energy for the next half century. And here's the geopolitical dimension that most analysts are only beginning to fully appreciate. China currently imports enormous amounts of oil and natural gas. Its economic growth has been partially hostage to global energy markets it cannot control. Every time oil prices spike, every time there is instability in a major oil-producing region, China feels it. The entire strategic logic behind China's clean energy push is ultimately about energy independence. If China succeeds in running its economy on domestic clean energy, it removes one of the most significant vulnerabilities in its strategic position. It no longer needs to secure sea lanes to protect oil imports. It no longer needs to maintain complicated relationships with oil exporting nations. It becomes energy sovereign in a way that no major economy has ever been before. The implications for global geopolitics are profound. Countries whose economies depend on selling fossil fuels to China need to start preparing for a world where that revenue stream is shrinking. Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the Gulf states, all of them export enormous volumes of energy to China. As China's demand for imported fossil fuels declines, these countries will need to find new buyers or fundamentally restructure their economies. Some of them have the wealth and the foresight to manage that transition. Others do not, and the resulting instability in those regions will be something the entire world has to navigate. The global response. So how is the rest of the world responding to all of this? Honestly, it is a mixture of concern, admiration, and frantic catch-up effort. The United States passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which included the largest clean energy investment in American history, specifically because policymakers recognized that China was pulling ahead in this race. European nations launched their own clean energy industrial policies for the same reason. India is accelerating its solar deployment and trying to build domestic manufacturing capacity before it becomes entirely dependent on Chinese supply chains. South Korea and Japan are pouring investment into battery research and nuclear technology. The race is on, and China's breakthroughs are the starting gun that fired it. There is a genuine debate among analysts about whether China's dominance in clean energy manufacturing is a threat or a gift for the rest of the world. Those who see it as a threat worry about supply chain dependency, about geopolitical leverage, about what happens if tensions escalate and the flow of solar panels or battery materials is disrupted. Those who see it as a gift point out that cheap, abundant, clean energy is ultimately what the planet needs to address climate change. And if China is making it available at scale and at low cost, the overall impact on global emissions may be positive regardless of the political complications. The truth is more complex than either position. Clean energy is not just about climate. It is about economic power, industrial policy, technological leadership, and national security. All of these dimensions are entangled in China's energy breakthrough, and disentangling them is one of the central challenges facing governments around the world right now. The electric vehicle ecosystem. No discussion of China's energy breakthrough would be complete without the electric vehicle story, because EVs and energy are inseparable. China is the world's largest producer and the world's largest market for electric vehicles by a very wide margin. In recent years, more electric vehicles were sold in China in a single year than in the rest of the world combined, and the quality of Chinese EVs has transformed so dramatically in the last 5 years that it has caught the global automotive industry completely off guard. BYD recently overtook Tesla to become the world's best-selling electric vehicle company. BYD is Chinese. It makes its own batteries, its own chips. It controls its own supply chain from raw materials to finished vehicle. The level of vertical integration BYD has achieved is something that even the most sophisticated Western automakers are struggling to replicate. But it goes beyond selling cars. China has built out one of the world's most comprehensive EV charging infrastructures. With millions of public charging points deployed across the country, range anxiety, one of the biggest psychological barriers to EV adoption, has essentially been solved for Chinese consumers. This infrastructure investment accelerates the transition to EVs, which drives demand for batteries and clean electricity, which justifies more investment in renewable energy. The flywheel is spinning and it is getting faster. The impact on global oil demand from this transition is going to be enormous. As the Chinese vehicle fleet electrifies over the next decade, analysts who track oil demand are already moving forward their projections for peak global oil consumption because of what China is doing. What this means for you, let us bring this closer to home. Even if you live far from China, even if you have no direct connection to any of this, what China is doing with energy is going to affect your life in concrete, tangible ways. First, energy prices. As the cost of solar and battery storage continues to fall, electricity from clean sources is going to get cheaper. In many parts of the world, it already costs less to build new solar or wind power than to keep running existing coal plants. That downward pressure on electricity prices is good news for consumers and businesses everywhere. Second, the cars available to you. Whether you drive an electric vehicle yet or not, the transformation of the automotive industry that China is driving is going to affect the vehicles available to you and the prices you pay. Western automakers are under intense pressure to match Chinese EV capabilities and costs. That competition ultimately benefits buyers. Third, climate. China is the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases. The pace at which China replaces coal and oil with clean energy is one of the most important variables in determining whether global climate targets are achievable. China's current clean energy deployment trajectory, if it continues as planned, will have a greater impact on global emissions than virtually any other single factor. And fourth, jobs and industry. The clean energy transition is one of the largest economic transformations in human history, and it is creating millions of jobs in manufacturing, installation, maintenance, software, and services. Countries and communities that position themselves to participate in this transition will prosper. Those that stay tied to the fossil fuel economy will face increasingly difficult structural challenges. The decisions your government, your companies, and even you as an individual make in the next 5 to 10 years about which side of this transition you want to be on will have long-lasting consequences. And fifth, perhaps most fundamentally, this is a story about what becomes possible when a nation fully commits its resources, its engineering talent, and its industrial capacity to solving a problem. China decided energy was the defining challenge of this century. It directed its government, its universities, its companies, and its workforce towards solving it, and the results, even if still unfolding, and even if they come with complicated geopolitical dimensions, are genuinely extraordinary. The road ahead, where does all of this go from here? Even the most informed experts are struggling to keep pace with the speed of change. Projections made 5 years ago for where China would be today consistently underestimated how fast things would move. The projections being made today for 5 years from now are probably also too conservative. What we can say with confidence is that every projection made so far has been beaten by reality. The International Energy Agency predicted in 2010 that solar power would supply about 1% of global electricity by 2030. China alone blew past that projection before 2025. When institutions with enormous analytical resources consistently underestimate how fast this is moving, it tells you something important. The pace of change in energy technology is accelerating, not slowing down. What we can say with confidence is that the trajectory points toward a China that, within 15 to 20 years, generates the vast majority of its electricity from clean sources. A China where electric vehicles dominate new car sales. A China where battery storage has made the grid fully independent of fossil fuels. And potentially a China where advanced nuclear power provides the dense, reliable energy that solar and wind alone cannot guarantee. That China would be the most energy independent major economy in the world. It would have structural cost advantages in manufacturing because its electricity would be cheaper and cleaner. It would have technological leadership in the industries that are going to define this century, and it would have fundamentally reshaped global geopolitics by eliminating its dependence on imported fossil fuels. Whether you find this inspiring, concerning, or simply fascinating depends on your perspective. But what is not up for debate is that it is happening. The energy breakthrough that everyone is talking about is real, it is significant, and it is going to reshape the world. The question for every other country, every company, and every individual paying attention is straightforward. Are you going to be caught off guard by this transformation, or are you going to understand it deeply enough to navigate it intelligently? The bottom line, China's energy breakthrough is not one thing. It is a convergence of breakthroughs in battery technology, solar manufacturing, nuclear power, grid infrastructure, and electric vehicles, all happening simultaneously, all reinforcing each other, all building toward a future where one of the world's two largest economies runs on clean, domestic, increasingly cheap energy. Energy experts who have spent their careers tracking these trends are using words like historic, unprecedented, and transformative to describe what they are seeing. The shock that the title of this video promised you is not exaggeration. It is an accurate description of how the people who study this for a living are actually feeling right now. The rules of the global energy game are being rewritten. China is holding the pen, and the essay it is writing is going to determine what kind of world all of us live in for the next 100 years. That is the story. That is what is happening. And now you know. If this video gave you a new way of understanding the energy transformation reshaping our world, please do three things right now. First, hit that subscribe button if you have not already. This channel is dedicated to breaking down exactly these kinds of complex, world-shaping stories in a way that is clear, honest, and genuinely useful. Second, share this video with someone in your life who needs to understand what is happening in the global energy space. Send it to a friend, a colleague, anyone who should know this story. Third, leave a comment below telling me what surprised you most. What was the detail that hit different for you? What question do you now have that you did not have before? I read every single comment, and your reactions directly shape what I cover next. The energy revolution is not coming, it is already here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.